This graph by itself doesn't make much sense, but when we add the Steam Deck's data, it becomes pretty impressive. 3 times as powerful as the most famous portable handheld, and it doesn't stop there. It also has double the battery life and goes up to 120 Hz. Simply impressive numbers on paper, and to be honest, it doesn't stand out for having a unique design, which is exactly what I want to explore. Opting for a purely functional design can be more beneficial than what we think. This Asus ROG Ally X is the new model of the already well-known ROG Ally. It still features the Z1 Extreme processor from AMD, which is the same processor as the most expensive version of the first ROG Ally, but it comes with several improvements. It's a more refined unit, with one of the most important upgrades being a battery with double the capacity of the original model. They've practically doubled the memory RAM, improved the cooling system, and fixed the issue where the mini SD card reader occasionally overheated. All of this combined with a number of smaller adjustments like the joysticks now having more tension for better precision, XAVY buttons are slightly taller, and now we have dual USB-C ports that on top of that support up to 100 watts of charge. To fit the new battery, they've adjusted the ergonomics, making it a bit thicker and with better grips. The most impressive part is that they managed to do all of this while maintaining a reasonable weight, going from just 608 grams to 675, and to improve the cooling system you would usually add more aluminum or copper to the heatsink, increasing the overall weight, but surprisingly they achieved it by making the heatsink lighter, improving the fans instead of enhancing the thermal capacity of the material, which also allowed them to reduce the amount of aluminum used. They also managed to make it lighter by reducing the thickness of the plastic that serves as the chassis for the console. As I mentioned earlier, I don't think the design is going to win any awards, but ergonomically it's very well done. Its width allows for a more comfortable and natural elbow position. Holding it feels very similar to an extended Xbox controller. In fact, I think if Xbox or Microsoft were to make one of these handhelds, it would look a lot like the ROG Ally. And that's a good thing because the Xbox controller is one of the best on the market, and it took years to evolve to the point where it stands today. One of the biggest challenges for these handhelds is how they adapt to Windows. Sure, we can connect a keyboard and mouse and use it like a regular computer, but being a portable console, that defeats the main purpose. That's why you can move the mouse using the right joystick, thanks to a system that automatically detects whether you're in a game or not and switches between joysticks and desktop mode. It works similarly to the slider on the GPD Win 4. It does this automatically, but if there's an issue, we can also switch modes manually using the quick menu in Armoury Crate. And the on-screen keyboard works almost the same, although it doesn't always work as expected automatically. Still, it's easy to set up access to it via the quick menu within Armoury Crate software, and it covers half of the screen, but you can customize it however you like. And if you think having to press 2 buttons to bring up the virtual on-screen keyboard is too much, you can assign one of the rear buttons to execute that action through the same app, making it appear only in desktop mode, so you won't lose any extra buttons while gaming. Armoury Crate software tries to make up for the absence of input peripherals, and it does a pretty good job, accepting those automatic detection functions either for the keyboard or for the mouse. We also get 2 extra buttons on the device, dedicated to the Armoury Crate. The left one gives us access to the quick menu, and the right one gives us access to the software, where all your games are available and in an intuitive interface, alongside full device configuration options. As for gaming, the main purpose of this device, it feels like an Xbox controller, with large and comfortable XAVY buttons. The rear buttons are also well positioned and easy to press. This may seem useless, but it's something other consoles haven't managed to do well. So with this one, you can quickly access key actions or customize shortcuts without interrupting the main joysticks or button actions. In the end, the triggers and joysticks are well built and perform as expected. I haven't found any dead zones in them, and they feel really precise. These consoles have been so successful because they can run not just arcade or emulation games but also AAA games. Moreover, this AMD Z1 Extreme has proven to be the best of its kind so far. To compare, in a simple benchmark for Cyberpunk 2077, the Steam Deck OLED averages 48 frames per second, while the ROG Ally X reaches up to 69. And this is at 720p, because you have to remember that the Steam Deck doesn't have a 1080p screen, so the ROG Ally comes out as a clear winner. I really believe this makes a difference, allowing for a much better experience in demanding titles on the ROG Ally, especially with the superior graphical fidelity when you use it docked. Don't expect to game with it at 4K, but it has an excellent performance for a great experience without sacrificing too much in visual quality. And even though the ROG Ally screen is IPS, it's an incredible display that doesn't have much to envy from an OLED panel. With its 120Hz and even something rare but positive VRR, variable refresh rate, this ensures that no matter the frame rate, you get a smooth tear-free experience. For me, these consoles are the perfect gateway to enjoy AAA campaign titles in a more relaxed way, even though it can handle fast-paced multiplayer games. For example, in Apex Legends I got around 80 FPS with my medium-high settings at 900p, but thanks to fluid motion frames, it now reaches 120 FPS. Playing campaigns, which is really what I've enjoyed the most in the ROG Ally X, has been amazing. Being able to run Horizon Zero Dawn or Gears of War 5 on a portable device is the real deal, especially with the 120Hz screen, making me feel like I'm not missing out by not being at my main setup. And after playing for a while, the most interesting thing is how a system this small handles its temperatures. The maximum I've seen was 87 degrees Celsius during an unrealistic stress test. Usually it hovers around 65 to 75 during actual gameplay. But the most important thing is that you never feel that heat in your hands. The two fans on it are pushing all the heat out of the system through the top exhaust vent without letting any heat escape towards where you're holding it, which is a great achievement. Not everything is perfect though, as usual I want to highlight the negatives so everyone can evaluate the purchase for themselves. Although it's not a deal breaker, the position of the USB-C charging port could be improved. The top location makes it awkward to charge while playing since the cable pulls slightly downward and tends to get in the way. No matter where it's coming from, in this position it's only comfortable when docked, not for portable use, and the simple solution would be to have an extra USB-C on the bottom. We've mentioned that the port supports up to 100 watts, but the included charger is only 65, so this seems like an improvement on paper, but not much since 65 watts is already more than what the device needs. It would only be useful if you look for even faster charging in certain situations, but 65 watts seems like a solid number. Also, for those who plan to use it primarily at home, I recommend enabling the battery care option in the My Asus app, which will prevent charging beyond 80%. You even get a notification asking if you want to reach 100% in special cases. This feature is great for preserving and extending the battery life. The placement of the fingerprint reader in the power button also doesn't seem like the best choice for this type of handheld, mostly due to how Windows works. Luckily, the device saves your fingerprint when you power it on, so you don't need to scan again when logging in. But each time you need to use the fingerprint reader, whether for a purchase or logging into an account, you have to reach for a less ergonomic position. A better placement for the fingerprint reader would be more convenient. To sum up, my ideal scenario would be to add two more elements on the front, a fingerprint reader on the left side for unlocking and a small trackpad on the right, like the BlackBerry style one on the GPT Win 4. I don't know if it's by design, but holding it in my hands, even though it's a refined product, it doesn't feel like any premium. It's strange because ergonomically it fits perfectly, buttons are all within reach and well positioned, but maybe it's just the plastic finish or the colors. The best comparison I can give is holding the base Xbox controller. It's a well-made product, but it doesn't quite feel premium to me. And both in feel and design, it's very similar to it. There's just one area where it falls short, the haptic feedback. I think this is generally underrated, but it's something I pay close attention to. At the end of the day, vibration is another tool that games use to immerse us further, letting us feel the ground shake or the impacts. After hours of gaming on this, going back to the keyboard and mouse, I actually missed the haptic feedback. And it's not just about immersion. There are games that rely on this haptic feedback to help the player be better. Either in cars or bike racing games, they let you feel the kind of gravel you're on, or if you're losing grip, so you're then able to react before it's happening and avoid losing the race. And it's not as easy as a switch that vibrates or stops. Game developers have gone pretty far to let the player know a lot of information through this haptic feedback, so there are a lot of different intensity or strength levels which provide information. And then, depending on the device quality, they might be better transmitted to the user, as if we were talking about sound devices, but in a world very underrated. Due to this, on my GPT Win 4, I can be as fast around a track as I am with an Xbox controller, not just because of the button layout, but also because of the lack of the good haptic feedback. Honestly, the Xbox controller is really well designed in that regard, and the ROG Ally X isn't far off either. In fact, it's much closer to feeling like the Xbox controller than the GPT Win 4. I'd say it's almost 85% there, and because of that, I can play without any issues and try to be quick without the console itself being a problem. And that's already a positive thing by itself. Being close to the haptic feedback of a controller that has evolved so much over the years is not an easy task for a device that weighs significantly more and contains many other components inside. Therefore, continuing with other good things I've noticed, the material, even though it doesn't feel any premium, has a finish that doesn't leave fingerprints all over it. It's worth mentioning that the trend of removing audio jack ports from phones hasn't made its way to the handhelds. The nature of these portable devices makes it very convenient to always have a pair of headphones on hand to plug and play. Another point in its favor is that the speakers have a very good depth and dynamic range, and since the console's fans barely make any noise, playing with the speakers is a great option. Also, when we're at home, we can always use the USB Generation 4 port to connect an external graphic card without needing to rely on some proprietary technology, which is always more expensive. It's also quite an achievement to see how easily we can disassemble it and upgrade whatever we want, from the joysticks to swapping out the storage drive. This generation now uses the 2280 format instead of the 2230, which is more standardized and offers more affordable options. Honestly, I've changed my mind about on-screen keyboards. Seeing that we can bring them up and use them so easily and that they aren't as much of a problem as I thought has made me realize that maybe it's the best option so the console doesn't cost more due to the materials and design complexity of including a physical keyboard on it. After all, being a gaming device, the on-screen keyboard is the most flexible and intelligent option. And there's one more problem, one more thing to talk about, and for many is the main issue, the price. Here I strongly disagree with most people. If we remember, the first ROG Ally was priced at $599, and that was the version with the base Z1. The one with the same APU as this one costs $699. Now, although the CPU hasn't changed, everything else has. In fact, the only thing that haven't changed are the CPU and the screen. Everything else has been upgraded. The ROG Ally X has been released for $100 more than the previous unit, but now with double the battery, double the storage, faster RAM, going from 16 to 84 GB, and many other improvements. Plus, it fixes problems of the previous model. Additionally, I would like you to help me understand down below in the comments why people speak so highly of the SteamOS on the Steam Deck, when I can do the same thing by setting up Steam to run in big picture mode when I turn on the device, and even I have more games to play with.